This changes everything for the Philadelphia Flyers as Danny Briere makes massive changes to the coaching staff, moving on from John Tortorella, which has sent the NHL in a frenzy as a NHL head coach has been linked as the Flyers' next head coach. And this is going to change everything for the Philadelphia Flyers if it happens. We got a lot to break down in this episode. Before we get into it, if you're enjoying this content and you want to stay up to date on even the Philadelphia Flyers or the rest of the NHL, make sure to go down and hit that subscribe button. We'll be all season long giving you updates from around the league. But with that, Casey, we got to hop straight into the big topic of today, where we do see the Philadelphia Flyers moving on from John Tortorella as they fire him and relieve him of his duties of the head coach. They do move on to Brad Shaw as the interim coach, but we do see Danny Briere speaking out, and I'm not going to read this whole thing, but he said, "Today I made the difficult decision to move on from John as our head coach. He did a vital job of helping us rebuild. He has set the standard of play," and like I said, you can read through this. This is the full quote on Danny Briere speaking on John Tortorella. But looking at this, Casey, what's your initial thoughts on John Tortorella being relieved of his duties?
Yeah, very interesting move today. I would say it didn't come to a shock to a lot of Philadelphia Flyers fans, but to fans around the league, hockey fans in general, this was a big move made today that maybe we didn't see coming until the end of the season. They just kind of did it with the last couple of weeks to go here into the season. But interesting move. I think, like I said, it was one that was a long time overdue. I've been a big advocate of John Tortorella doesn't work with a bunch of young kids, and that's what he had in Philadelphia. And do I think Tortorella is a great coach? Yes, he's one of the most established coaches in the league today. And obviously, he gets a lot of flack for his coaching style. We'll leave it at that. But I think this guy is a great coach. He fits in a better home than Philadelphia. And for Flyers fans and for this team, they're kind of in a little bit of a rebuild right now. They got a lot of young guys coming up, a big promising one in Matvei Michkov. They want a coach that will just come in here, not be as hard on players as Tortorella will be, and just kind of build their future with a coach like that. Now, I think this is a great move just for both sides, both parties involved here.
And I mean, the biggest thing is, listen, we've seen Tortorella's comments when they lost to the Leafs. What was it, 7-2, 7-3? He spoke about how he doesn't even know how he feels about coaching with this team. But this has sent the NHL in a frenzy where we do see the Philadelphia Flyers linked to what seems like to be their next head coach if it happens. And as we could see, from multiple reporters. Good morning, Rick Tocchet. Now listen, if you're a Flyers fan, you know Rick Tocchet as he's a former player. We see more here coming from Josh Yeo of The Athletic. I have zero doubt that Rick Tocchet is atop the Flyers wish list. Would be in the best interest of Penguins fans if President Jim Rutherford of the Vancouver Canucks were to keep him in Vancouver for a while longer. The biggest thing is Rick Tocchet is coaching the Vancouver Canucks. He does have a contract to sign at the end of the season, but we know he wants to wait until he signs that, till the season concludes. So listen, he is a Flyers legend. We've seen him play with the Philadelphia Flyers. So there's a lot of reports linking him to the Flyers organization. And what I will say is Rick Tocchet would do wonders. I mean, listen, Casey, we're looking at a Flyers team that is currently looking at, yet again, another top 5 pick coming up in this draft. Currently 26th or 28th, sorry, I can't read today, apparently. In the standings, we do see a lot of teams trying to push to win the tank, to win guys like Misa going into this draft. But do you think bringing in another established coach in Rick Tocchet could change this Flyers organization?
Yeah, I definitely think it will. I think it will turn it around in the other direction. Well, kind of like I just said, I think you need a coach that is going to come in and grow with a team. Like he's not just going to come in and just be hardball on you. You know, that's more set for a established team that's going for a Stanley Cup, and that's Torts' style. But when you switch pages here to Tocchet's, I think this is a guy who can really get his system into place, instilled in a bunch of younger players that will eventually, you know, they'll grow into that system and the system will evolve over time. And I think that is what the Philadelphia Flyers need. Like you said, they're going into a big draft year where there's the top 5 is loaded in this draft class. So they're going to get a good pick out of this regardless. So getting another young star alongside Matvei Michkov, a new coach that will kind of be able to usher in a new style of hockey in Philadelphia is definitely the way to go here. And it's definitely interesting hearing Rick Tocchet linked. I mean, obviously he's coaching right now in Vancouver, but in the unfortunate scenario where Vancouver maybe doesn't make the playoffs, I think they're pretty locked in for it right now, but the race is tight. I think he's gone regardless. I think if they do anything but win the Stanley Cup, I think Tocchet is out of Vancouver this offseason.
And I mean, the biggest thing is, listen, Rick Tocchet has been around for quite some time. We've seen him with his longest stint with the Arizona Coyotes, now the Utah Hockey Club. He joined Vancouver just 2 years ago, third year this year. We've seen last year 50 wins, 23 losses. They made the second round versus the Edmonton Oilers and lost in Game 7. Rick Tocchet has put a great system in on this team, but they've dealt with a lot of injuries. Listen, I'm a Vancouver fan. I will not hide that. I think Rick Tocchet is awesome for this team. A lot of fans will tell you otherwise, but his defensive aspect he brings to their game, he brings a lot. And yes, he does have flaws. Every NHL coach does. That's why it's so hard to win a Stanley Cup most times. But looking at Rick Tocchet, with the success he's had around the NHL, listen, you're going to look at this and say he hasn't got a lot of wins, but let's be real here. That Arizona team was not great for a lot of seasons in a row, but he did bring the best out in the Vancouver Canucks last year with his first full season, 50 wins, 23 losses. As I said this year, dealing with injuries throughout the entire roster. Brock Besser was out this year, Demko was out, Hughes was out, Pettersson's out. I can list half the roster that's been out for more than 15 games. They're clawing for a final wildcard spot. They haven't talked about contract extensions. So I think there is a real possibility where Rick Tocchet may leave to join his former team in the Philadelphia Flyers. If he wants to go to the U.S. market again, listen, he could sign with the Canucks as we're posting this, but it does seem like all reports are either that he may walk to the Philadelphia Flyers or sign with the Canucks in the offseason. But I mean, listen, KC, the biggest thing is, yes, this roster has a lot of construction that needs to be done before they're a contender. You have a lot of young, promising guys, like you said throughout this video. Konecny is their leading scorer and is a phenomenal player. I want to put that out there. But looking at this roster, do you think maybe Rick Tocchet might look at this and say, hey, maybe I don't want to go to a rebuilding team? Or do you think the Flyers can maybe take the next jump going into next season where Tocchet might look at it as an intriguing situation where he can take this team, grow it, and maybe make them a contender in 2 years?
I think he's definitely looking at it and saying, do I really want to put myself through this again? I did it with the Coyotes. Do I want to do it with the Philadelphia Flyers? And I think his roots to Philadelphia are going to tug on his heartstrings here. And I think that's what's going to guide him to Philadelphia in the end, because this guy, he's going to be a guy that comes in. He cares about the team that he's coaching now because he played for this team. His heart's in Philadelphia. And I think when you have a coach that loves the team he's on, I think that only is going to lead to success in the future. I think Philadelphia fans, you have a rough couple of years ahead of you, and there's no doubt about that. You're going into the beginning of a rebuild, and it's going to suck for some time. But I think having Rick Tocchet come in and just be able to build his own system with knowledge he's gained throughout his career as an NHL coach, it's definitely going to help this franchise out. But it's going to be interesting to see what he does here. But this wouldn't surprise me if he left Vancouver and went to Philadelphia.
And I mean, listen, I'm a Canucks fan. I know there's so many reports coming around. He does have a lot of leverage going into this offseason where teams are going to be actively coming after him. Do I think he joins there? There is a high possibility. Do I want him to? No, God, no, I don't. I want him to stay with the Canucks. But what's your thoughts on this, Canucks fans or Flyers fans, whoever's watching this? Maybe you're a Dallas Stars fan watching this video just to see the drama. Go down and leave a comment on what your thoughts on what's happening with the coaching situations in the NHL. Why down there, leave a like, subscribe, share this with your friends. We'll be back with another episode, so keep your eye out for that. But I've been your host, Mark Pye, and my co-host, KC. Take care.